Bandhan Mutual Fund presents MF Corner.
Hello and welcome to the special edition of Mutual Fund Corner, YouTube edition. And thank you so much for tuning in. Now today we're going to be discussing a very important topic, and that is going to be step-up SIP. What is step-up SIP and how does it actually help investors in building wealth over the years? Does it even help? We're going to understand all of that starting from the scratch, and we do have a special guest with us joining in with us to talk to us about all of that. We have Jimeet Modi, who's joining in with us, founder and CEO at SAMCO Group. Jimeet, thank you so much for joining in with us. And this is a very important topic. At first, it's not easy to understand what is step-up SIP. So let's start with just the basic of what is it.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an absolute pleasure. So to understand step-up SIP, I think it's a fairly simple concept. The concept of an SIP is that you invest a fixed sum of money every month on a fixed particular date. So let's say you decide to invest 10,000 rupees every month on the 7th of every month. That's how a normal SIP works. Now, the step-up SIP is an upgraded version to the SIP, where you can actually decide to increase your contribution at a fixed interval. So I think the most popular way of increasing a step-up SIP is, I was investing 10,000 rupees every month from January to December, 12 months, 1,20,000 bucks. From next year onwards, I will step this up by 10%. And this 10,000 rupee contribution will be added to by a number of 10%, which will take this from 10,000 to 11,000. So for the next full year, I will then invest 11,000 every month on the 7th of every month. And then the following year, there will be an again 10% step up, so on and so forth. So it's like, you have salary increments and incomes go up on a year-on-year basis. The amounts that you invest also should keep going up. And I think step-up SIP automates that process of making sure that you're also increasing your investments on a year-on-year basis based on an interval that you're comfortable with.
Sure. I just want to understand, what if I've started an SIP already? You said this is an upgraded version of SIP, right? Because you're investing maybe some amount more next year. What if I have an SIP? Can I convert it to a step-up SIP? Is that an option there? Or maybe I have to restart the whole process to start a step-up SIP?
So, for most AMCs and for most platforms, you actually have to stop the old SIP and then start a new step-up SIP. Some platforms, some AMCs will allow you the option to convert an SIP into a step-up SIP. But I think the most common route is to stop what you were doing and then just simply start a new step-up SIP. Because in a step-up SIP, you will have to input a couple of new additional parameters, which is by how much amount or by how much percent you want to increase your step-up, at what frequency you want to step up. So I think it's important that these details get captured, and which is why most AMCs and platforms will insist that you set up a new step-up SIP completely.
Okay. Does this help in getting better returns as well, or how does this work? And what if I have specific financial goals? Sometimes you're starting with a long-term goal, and that's when you're going to be moving and investing. So how do goals as well as the contribution that comes in from this, the money that you make from this, differ from a normal SIP?
So, see, the biggest advantage of a step-up SIP is that while the return is not going to be different, because the return is going to be the same whether you do an SIP or a step-up SIP. What's going to be different is the end corpus that you end up with. So, to give you an example, let's say if you were doing a 10,000 rupee SIP every month for 20 years, in that case, your total contribution and your end value at a return of 12%, assuming you made 12% over these 20 years, you would end up with a corpus of 1 crore rupees. Now, if you were to do a 10,000 rupee SIP with a 10% step up on every year's frequency, and you continue to do this for 20 years, and your rate of return was 12%, then you will eventually end with a corpus of 2 crore rupees instead of 1 crore rupees. So, see, the biggest mistake that people make is that, while starting out, they define an SIP amount that, let's say I have a salary of 50,000 rupees, I'm going to invest 10,000 rupees in an SIP. What people end up forgetting is that when next year their salary grows from 50 to 60, 60 to 70, they do not proportionately increase the SIP. And step-up SIP allows you to automate that. You assume that, if you're going to get 10% nominal increase in your income, whatever mode of income you may have, a step-up SIP allows you to simply automate that, and I think it makes your life a lot more easy as well as more disciplined. Because I've seen so many investors who simply forget. They said, oh, my salary has gone from 50,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees in 3 years, but my SIP is still at 10,000 bucks. I completely forgot. And that missed time results in missed compounding gains, and you could end up with a smaller corpus. So, if you have a stable income, if you have stable savings, a step-up SIP is a much better upgraded version than a normal SIP.
But then should you always go for step-up SIP or should you go for normal SIP as well? Because now I feel like, why am I doing a normal SIP? Might as well just do a step-up SIP.
Absolutely. See, the answer to that lies on how consistent is your income. So let's say if you have an income source which is stable, so if you have, let's say you're a salaried individual, you have a business and you have a certain cash flow which is fixed and which you have certainty that, it's going to grow at a nominal rate of 8, 10, 15%, then a step-up SIP is a no-brainer. Then, you should do a step-up SIP. A person who has, I would say, irregular cash flows, or who has no fixed, so let's say if you're a professional or if you're a self-employed person and there is some amount of seasonality to your cash flow. In some seasons you'll make more money and then in other seasons you may make a little less money. For those people where there is inconsistency or lack of visibility of exact cash flows, for them SIP is probably a slightly better option, because you don't want to end up overcommitting and then not being able to actually fulfill your SIP obligations. So to that extent, the answer lies in what is your type of income, and if your type of income is stable, it's growing at a nominal rate on a year-on-year basis. As I said, step-up SIP is a no-brainer. I think for you should definitely shut your normal SIPs and move to a
step-up SIP. Okay, that's what I'll be looking at. But is there a specific percentage as an investor that one should be considering while doing step-up SIPs? Like, what is that I should look at it in percent of my investments that come?
So again, see, there's no right or wrong number there. It depends on how you predict your incomes to grow. So I think the most popular step-up number is a 10% number. So a 10,000 rupee SIP becomes 11,000, then becomes 12,100 the following year, so on and so forth. But let's say for somebody who's not very confident that their incomes are going to go up 10% on a year-on-year basis, and maybe they might just get stuck with a slightly lower number, then you may opt for a 5% number also. I think that number is based on your individual finances, a person's finances. But the point is, you've got to make sure that irrespective of whether that number is 5, 6, 8 or 10, you make sure that as your incomes go, your contribution to your SIPs keeps going up, so that the proportion in which you were saving and investing earlier, that remains consistent.
Okay. We've spoken about all the pros, how this will make us, invest better as well as make more wealth as well at the end of the day. What are the potential risks? What are the challenges that come in with a step-up SIP? See,
the challenges, I think, the challenges of a step-up SIP are very similar to that of an SIP, in the sense that, you will have to make sure that you are actually able to commit to that contribution that you're making every month. And let's say if you miss a contribution, then there are other costs, you'll end up paying bank bounce charges, so on and so forth. So I think that essentially is just the other cost. But besides that, I don't see any other major negative. I think the only other then negative would be if, let's say Indian markets were go into a long drawn bear market like the Japanese market did, then even SIPs would not do well, and even step-up SIPs would not do well.
That means none of your investments are going to be doing well.
And that's something that we should never hope for. And I don't think that's going to happen either. But I think besides that, there is no other real risk that's coming in. I think the bigger risk is in not doing step-up SIP because you will end up with a smaller corpus.
And you're missing on that opportunity also.
Correct.
So that's that. But Jimeet, thank you so much for joining in with us and explaining the viewers as well as me get into that step-up SIP zone as well. So thank you so much, Jimeet, for joining in with us on the show and giving us your time.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure.
Bandhan Mutual Fund presents MF Corner.